Everyone. Uh, Good morning, Jenny. Good morning, Hemant. Good morning, Niranjan. Good morning. So today we start a fresh standard, that is the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates, Ind AS 21. And we did have a standard on similar lines, AS level, that you would already have learned in your intermediate. Yes. So there are some points which are common, there are some which are different, and there is one very fundamental change to how we are approaching the concept of foreign exchange. What exactly do we mean by foreign currency? Okay. So if you recollect, in the erstwhile AS level, we had only two types of currency. One was your foreign currency and one was your reporting currency. Reporting currency was the currency in which you presented the financial statements. Typically, that would be the country in which you are domiciled. Okay, that means where you are registered, and you would have to report for the purposes of the local regulations, like in our case for the MCA. Then the INR would be the reporting currency, and any currency other than INR would be your what we call foreign currency. And then you would have rules for translation and integral, non-integral operations, foreign subsidiary conversions. So all of that we used to look into. So now let us move on to the fundamental change that we have here. So again, what all we'll be covering is the objective, the scope. Then there is a particular term that we use, something known as functional currency. So that is the fundamental shift that we are going through. And this fundamental shift, why do we have something known as a functional currency? We have three currencies in Ind AS 21. Functional currency, reporting currency, or what they call as presentation currency, and last one is foreign currency. So three types of currencies are there. Then functional versus presentation, use of presentation currency other than functional currency, foreign currency transactions, operations, translation and disposal of foreign operations, change in the functional currency, and disclosures. And we have one appendix, Appendix D, that deals with treatment of advance paid or received. Okay, so that is the broad coverage of this standard. So why is this standard of great importance? Why do we have this standard, which is extremely important today? Because one is, we are all in a global environment, right? We have MNCs across who transact not only in India but also outside India, either through branches or through foreign subsidiaries, whatever be the case of operations. So you could have free flow of foreign currency like dollars, euros, pounds, yens, INR, etc., which keep crossing the borders with what you can say, with great ease in today's times. And therefore, it becomes very critical for us to really know how to do the accounting for these particular categories of transactions. Okay. So what is the objective of this standard? The objective of this standard is to prescribe how to include entities having transactions in foreign currencies in the financial statements. So suppose I make a sale in dollars, but my reporting currency or my financials are prepared in INR. So how do I convert this dollar to INR? How to include it in the financial statements is the first thing. Where you have entity having foreign operations, then in how to include such operations in the financial statement. So first case is a foreign transaction where you have sale, purchase, procurement of fixed assets, taking of a loan, etc. Regular foreign transactions. Foreign operations means I have a separate setup outside India. And now after the year is done, obviously my results should include the results. Is my voice okay? Anu is saying the voice is not proper. Hemant, Jeannie, the voice is fine. Okay. Anu, just have a check from your end. Hemant is confirming. Ginny, is the voice okay? Monica, आवाज ठीक है? Okay, fine. ठीक है. All right. Okay. So now coming back, yes. So you could be having your own setup outside India. That could be in the form of a branch or a division or a subsidiary. So the important point is, how do I have to incorporate those results into my financials? Because my books will not show a complete picture until those results also get reported. So that is why we are having entity having foreign operations. How do I include such operations in the financial statements? And finally, entity presenting its financial statements in a foreign currency. So how to translate it into a presentation currency? So foreign currency to presentation currency translation rules are given. Okay, so this is, one second. How do I give that permission to unmute? 1 minute.
यस सर नाउ ओके।
अच्छा, अभी ठीक है ना? ओके
हाँ वो मैं अपने आप को अनम्यूट नहीं कर पा रही थी।
ओके ओके ओके, all right. Others also can just let me know if you are okay. All right. Okay, fine. ठीक है. All right. So Ind AS applies to the presentation of an entity's financial statements in a foreign currency and sets out requirements for resulting financial statements to be described as complying with Ind AS. For translation of financial information into a foreign currency that does not meet these requirements, this standard specifies the information to be disclosed. Okay, so this is your broad objective. So when we talk about the scope of Ind AS 21, it is having a triangular scope. The first one is accounting for transactions and balances in foreign currencies. That means debtors, creditors, loans taken, loans given, inventory balances. Okay, all these could typically end up being your foreign currency. Okay, not inventory balances, but these loan taken, loans given, debtors, creditors, all of these could be your regular foreign transactions and balances. Coming to translating results and financial position of foreign operations. So like my inventory, property, plant, equipment, then the operations in foreign countries. Okay. So these have to be included in the financial statements of the entity, either through consolidation or under the equity method. So what do I mean by foreign operation? It could be a subsidiary, it could be an associate, it could be a joint arrangement, it could be a branch, the activities of which are based or conducted in a country or currency other than those of the reporting entity. So I hope you are familiar with the terms associate, subsidiary, joint arrangement, or branch. I hope you are familiar with these four terms and what they are. Okay. And last one, translating an entity's results and financial positions into a presentation currency. Okay, so that's the same thing what we have. What are excluded? What are excluded from Ind AS 21? Foreign currency derivatives, because that is covered under Ind AS 109, which you will be studying. Oh, good morning, Kameshwari. Good morning. Yes. All right. Okay, is joint arrangement the same as joint venture? You will be studying joint arrangements in your, we have a separate standard that deals with joint ventures and joint arrangements. I think it's Ind AS 111 and Ind AS 28. So there you will look at joint venture is one of the forms of joint arrangements. And the accounting for a joint arrangement and the joint venture is slightly different. Okay, slightly different. So how to do that accounting, how to do the reporting is something that you will be going through when you do your consolidation. Okay. Presentation of the cash flows arising from transactions in a foreign currency or translation of cash flows of a foreign operation. This is covered under Ind AS 7. Hedge accounting for foreign currency items, including hedging of net investment in foreign operation, covered under Ind AS 109. What is hedging of NIFO, net investment in foreign operation? All these terms are going to come in the coming session. So therefore, just as of now, just park it aside. We will discuss this. Okay. Long-term foreign currency monetary items for which an entity has opted for exemption given in para D13AA of Appendix D to Ind AS 101. We will see what is this para that deals with, and that it is an exclusion paragraph. Okay. So the treatment is specified under Ind AS 101, so that will not be covered here. Okay. So now we come to the most important part of our discussion. Today, I believe at least the first half until break, we will be spending considerable amount of time on understanding what do we mean by functional currency. What do we mean by functional currency? Primarily, your functional currency is the currency of the primary economic environment in which the entity operates. Okay. The primary economic environment in which the entity operates. Okay. So now, if you recollect AS11, I had only two currencies. One was home currency or domestic currency or reporting currency. Currency where the entity was domiciled plus foreign currency. Plus foreign currency. And you had the reporting requirements, rules for translation, etc. But under Ind AS 21, we are having a new currency category that we call as functional currency. Additionally, you have presentation currency as well as foreign currency. So additionally, these parts are available to you. Okay. But the most significant change that you are going to see is introduction of functional currency. So what do we understand by the term functional currency? Functional currency is the currency of the primary economic environment in which the entity operates. It is the currency of the primary economic environment in which the entity operates. Okay. So when I talk about this term, it may appear to be very simple. The primary economic environment in which an entity operates. Okay. Okay. How many of us have booked flights? Yes. How many of us have tried to make a flight booking either on through agencies like Make My Trip or directly? Yes, you people would have done at least once, or you would have seen, right? Now, suppose I take an Indigo flight from Bangalore to Dubai. Okay. If I take an Indigo flight from Bangalore to Dubai, or I take Air India, either of the two, your fare will come in INR. Your fare will come in INR. You can try it out. Okay. You can try it out. Fare will be in INR. And this will be a proper fare. जहाँ पे decimal नहीं होंगे. There won't be any decimal that works. It will be a straight whole number INR amount that is going to be reflected as your fare. Is it okay? Now, let us take an airline like Emirates. I operate from Bangalore to Dubai. And the fare is going to come in INR. But this will not be in whole numbers. This will be with decimals. This will be with decimals. ये fare INR में होगा. This fare will come in INR, but it won't be a whole number like how Indigo and Air India will give their fare to you. This will be in terms of decimals. Why do I have these decimals? Why will I have these decimals? Because Emirates has determined the pricing of this flight in terms of dirhams, because Emirates has determined the pricing of this flight in terms of dirhams, and then the algorithm that it runs at the back end pulls out the exchange rate and does a multiplication. That's about it. The INR fare is in effect a translated dirham fare. That is why you are having your decimals. Otherwise, the obvious question that every one of us should end up asking is, how is Emirates able to price their fares right up to the second decimal when our own carriers do not do that? That is the problem. Our carriers are determining their fare purely in local terms. They think about the fare, they think about the INR public, and then they do the pricing, because their operations are affected by virtue of their operations within India, in the sense that it is the Indian market that influences their pricing. But when I look at a airline like Emirates, they are not influenced, or the Indian market does not drive the pricing of their flights, or the Indian market is not influencing the pricing of that flight, because the pricing of that flight is determined based on the economic environment of Dubai, of which the airline is a part of. The Emirates is a Dubai-based airline, and therefore it is the Dubai economic environment that determines the pricing of this flight, and then it is just a conversion that they do before displaying the fares. Are you able to understand? Yes, are you able to understand? Yes?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the question is, तो आप कहना क्या चाहते हो? What are you trying to tell? So if I want to prepare the financials of Emirates today, what is going to be the functional currency of Emirates? Will it be INR or will it be the Arab dirhams?
Arab dirhams.
It will be dirhams, because it is the dirham currency that is determining the pricing of that particular airfare. Is it okay? Yes. So the functional currency is essentially going to be the currency in which you have to do your reporting. Okay. Acha, so sir, Emirates will definitely have a subsidiary in India. You are having so many Emirates outlets, or Emirates, what you can say, extension counters and offices in India. So Emirates will definitely be having a subsidiary. Qatar Airways will be having a subsidiary. Okay, because they will have to handle local, what you can say, because they will have to handle local regulations. You should have customers who can reach out to those people in the event of certain missed flights, or some office should be existing so that customers can escalate their grievances. So typically these airlines have a back office in the form of a subsidiary. So the Emirates will have, suppose for namesake, Emirates India Private Limited. It will have one such subsidiary. Now Emirates India Private Limited's functional currency will be what? Because what happens is, I will book the flight. The flight will, what you can say, the portal that I log into will take me to the India-based website of Emirates. Emirates.com/IN. Okay, so IN, it stands for India. So it goes to Emirates.com/IN. I do the booking there. The fare goes to the subsidiary, probably, and then they do a repatriation. They then do a repatriation, probably. Okay, I don't know the back end. But you tell me one thing, this Indian subsidiary which is there, is it really having its own operations and getting influenced by the market in India, or is it only a front end in India for something that is operating from Dubai? It's only a front end. It's only a front end. So therefore, for Emirates India, the thought process of the employee sitting in Emirates India does not work in INR. It only works in dirhams. They will talk about the pricing, they will talk about the costing, they will talk about the factors only and only in dirhams, and they cannot understand INR. So for this particular subsidiary in India, what will be the functional currency? Will it be dirhams or will it be INR? You forget about reporting. For now, you forget about financial reporting. Okay. For now, you forget MCA compliance, income tax compliance. Sir, ये सब भी तो होगा. तो sir, हमारा reporting currency तो INR है. For now, I want you to forget that you are financial reporting students. For now, just think logically.
Dinar.
What will it be?
Dinar.
Yes, dinar or dirhams, whatever it is. Yes. So your functional currency for the India-based subsidiary is going to be dirhams. Okay, dirhams or dinars or whatever it is. Okay. Are you able to understand? Yes. I'll come to your confusion and your apprehension. Your apprehension is, sir, आप बोल रहे हो functional currency is determined by the primary economic environment in which the entity operates. Yes. So in this case, the airline's primary environment is Dubai. That is determining the pricing. यहाँ India में बैठे subsidiary will not determine the pricing of the airline. Will not determine the pricing of the airline. Suppose I sit here and I want to book a flight from Dubai to Sydney. इंडिया का कहीं जिक्र ही नहीं है. There is no place in India that is forming part of this. But I want to book the flight from Dubai to Sydney. Now, Dubai's currency is dirhams. Sydney's currency is Australian dollar. I am sitting in India and doing the booking. So obviously, because I sit in India and I have an Indian credit card, the fare will be denominated in INR. Look at the word I'm using. The fare will only be denominated in INR. The fare is not determined in INR. Are you able to understand? Determined in INR and denominated in INR. Are they the same or are they different?
Different, sir.
ये डिफरेंट है, ये दोनों सेम नहीं है. डिटर्मिनेशन happens in dirhams. Conversion happens using some exchange rate that is applicable. And so your screen shows you INR, but the actual pricing is not determined in INR. It is determined in dirhams. It is determined in dirhams. Okay. So therefore, the primary economic environment is dirhams for this entity. We have to present our financial statements. We have to identify the functional currency. And generally, Ind AS requires to prepare the financials in your functional currency. Arey sir, but how is that possible? ये तो India है. We have to file the statements with MCA. So if you have to file the statement in MCA, which everybody has to do, they have to file a tax return also, and all these cannot happen in foreign currency. This has to happen in INR. So therefore, for such entities, INR becomes only a presentation currency. It is just presentation and nothing else. So INR becomes a presentation currency for which INR becomes a presentation currency for which you are going to uh, prepare the financial statements in INR. But what is the primary currency or the functional currency of this entity? Sir, it is the foreign currency dirhams. Are we able to understand? Yes. Okay. Let us take one more case. I have an entity that is incorporated in, I hope the spelling is right. I have a country that is incorporated in Luxembourg. Okay. Let us take any of these audit firms. Okay. You have these big fours and all these entities. Typically, where their operations head sits, I mean the headquarters of these entities, they typically are in countries like Luxembourg, Iceland. Okay, they are based out of such countries, which are tax havens, Okay. So now you have, let us say, some big four which is there, or some entity which is having its head office situated in a tax haven, Luxembourg or Mauritius or whatever it is. Now, they have an entity in India. Okay, let us say it's an entity ABC Limited. ABC Limited is having its subsidiary in India, ABC India Private Limited, or if it is a firm, ABC Company LLP. ABC Company LLP. Now, let us for now assume that Ind AS is applicable to all entities. Okay, we'll not go into sir LLP ke liye nahi lagta and all. That we'll forget for the time being. Now, these entities operate in India. Okay. So when these entities are operating in India, which currency, okay, Luxembourg's currency is, let us say, euros. Okay. When they are operating in India, which currency influences the pricing of these entities? Suppose you have an entity which is having incorporation outside India, but it is operating in India. It delivers consultancy services, assurance engagements from India. So how are they going to price their service? Which currency determines that pricing?
Euro.
सोच के जवाब दो. I don't want to take the names. That's why I'm trying to make it simple. Okay. ABC Limited is an assurance engagement firm, which is headquartered in Luxembourg. ABC Limited has ABC LLP India, which is situated in India. ABC LLP India is now appointed as the auditor of, let us suppose, XYZ Limited, a large public company with multiple subsidiaries. So ABC Limited, ABC LLP India is appointed as the auditor of XYZ Limited. I'll explain the case better so you will be able to understand. Okay. ABC LLP India hires local talent, freshly qualified professionals, experienced professionals. It has managers, senior managers. It is having partners, all from India. Their salary structures, their compensation, remunerations, etc., are determined by India in accordance with the Indian markets.
Sir,
There,
can you repeat? Because your voice is
अच्छा वॉइस अभी भी ठीक से नहीं आ रहा है. Okay. What's wrong? Just give me a minute. Just a minute. Okay, hello. Is it better?
yes, sir. But you repeat your the last example, which
अब बताओ. ठीक है, मैं फिर से बता रहा हूँ. So ABC Limited is an assurance engagement firm which is incorporated in Luxembourg. It has its own network of firms, out of which there is one firm in India, ABC LLP India. ABC LLP India is appointed as the auditor for XYZ Limited, which is a large listed entity operating in India. Now, ABC LLP India is having local talent, freshers, qualifieds, trainees, partners, managers, and all their salary structures are in line with the market rates of India. All these are in line with the market rates of India. Do you think, now just think from a business angle, not from a professional angle, think from a business angle. Suppose you are the CFO of XYZ Limited. ABC Limited, ABC LLP India, ABC LLP India has to quote the audit fees for you. Can it quote the audit fee keeping in mind the market conditions of Luxembourg, or should it quote the audit fee keeping in mind the economic environment of India?
India.
India.
Economic environments.
India.
Obviously, it will be quoting, that's absolutely right. It will be quoting the engagement fee. I'm not talking about denominating the engagement fee. I'm talking about determination of the engagement fee. The engagement fee will be determined based on the pricing in India. समझ में आ गया?
Sir, the same example applies on all big fours, right?
नाम मत लो यार, recorded session. Okay? But yes,
Okay.
ठीक है? That's true. Okay? But it's perfectly fine. Okay? So therefore, what I'm trying to highlight is this entity here, though it is having its parent situated in Luxembourg, the operations, the pricing, the expenses, the costs, the indirect expenses, everything is determined based on the economic environment in India. Yes, this is exactly opposite of the Emirates example that I gave you. Emirates mein the entity was based in Dubai. The pricing was determined by Dubai. The aircraft crew, their salaries, the fuel costs, everything is based out of the economic conditions of Dubai. Yahan pe there will be some fueling that will happen to their aircraft. That I'm not even concerned about that. But primarily everything happens out of Dubai. Their hub is Dubai. Their incorporation country is Dubai. Okay. So therefore, it is Dubai which is influencing their pricing, even though I look at an entity which is incorporated in India. Yes or no? And therefore, For the Emirates example, the functional currency of the Indian entity continues to remain dirhams and not INR. But in the second case, ABC LLP India is based out of India. Its costs and revenues are determined by the Indian environment. Today, suppose you are working for ABC LLP India and you get a compensation of, let us say, 15 lakhs per annum. And you are such a good professional, they relocate you from India to London. Can you survive on a 15 lakh per annum salary in London? Answer is no. You will say, I need to get salary commensurate to the living conditions in London. Yes. So there the London market will determine the compensation that has to be paid to you. So similarly, that's what I'm drawing your attention to. It is the Indian economic environment that is responsible for your pricing, for your costing, for your expenses. So for ABC LLP India, what will be my functional currency?
Sir, INR.
Rupees.
INR. Pooja clear? Jeannie clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hemant also clear.
Yes,
Samajh mein
sir,
aa raha hai?
clear.
Yes. So therefore, what we have to look at is, now I'm just summarizing whatever I have explained till now. When I talk about something known as functional currency is something that is intricately linked to your operations. It is not something that I can choose. I cannot say today my functional currency is INR, tomorrow it is dollar, day after tomorrow it is euros. I cannot do that. My functional currency is intricately linked to the place in which I operate. The place in which I operate will be the basis for determining what will be the costs I incur, what will be the spends I have to do, what will be the rentals I have to pay, what will be the salaries I have to give, how do I charge my revenues. I cannot charge based on euro basis and pay my salaries on INR basis. So all these factors put together are responsible for determining your pricing. So therefore, that becomes your functional currency. Let me come to the final example. You have numerous Indian stores situated in countries like London, in cities like London, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, etc. Okay. Now, what these Indian stores do is, रहने वाले तो हम ही लोग हैं वहां पे. We have Indians in all these places. So Indians cannot live without Indian food, Indian spices, whatever it is. So you have these Indian entities which are specialists in making Indian spices, in grinding Indian spices, getting Indian vegetables, getting your basically Indian फूड के लिए जो भी रॉ मटेरियल्स चाहिए, सेमी प्रोसेस गुड्स चाहिए, they are responsible for procuring that. Now, those entities, what will they price their goods? What will be the determining factor for pricing their goods? Will it be the costs of India, or will it be the cost where that entity is situated? Because it's operating out of these cities, the rental costs there will be in line with that location. The workforce there will be in line with that location. थोड़े बहुत local expenses of थोड़े बहुत Indian expenses will be there. Like for example, they want to buy some spices which are native only to India. You don't get it in the United States. Or there is some special flavored spices which you know that apart from this store in India, nobody else makes. So that is your differentiating factor. So when you buy that, obviously you will have the pricing not exactly on export lines, but there will be the Indian influence on those pricings also. So you will have a very small 5 to 10% of your operations denominated or determined based on INR values. But the crux of your operations is determined based on USD values. But ultimately, वो है क्या? It is an Indian store, providing Indian food, Indian raw materials, pulses, spices, etc. to the Indian diaspora that is situated in these locations. You tell me what will be the functional currency of this entity?
USD.
USD होगा. And if it's in London, it will be GBP. जो भी है. So my whole understanding is, or my whole submission to you is, think about the entity and what is influencing its pricing. I have an entity in India जिसका नाम है Flipkart. Yes, I have an entity in India whose name is Flipkart. Flipkart's parent is WS Retail, which is a Singapore-based entity. Flipkart का एक भी सेल सिंगापुर में नहीं होता है. It does not have even one Singapore dollar sale in Singapore. But everything happens in India. What will be the functional currency of Flipkart?
Rupees. Indian currency.
Indian currency. Rupees. Monica, are you okay?
यस सर.
Anu,
सर हमें ये कंफ्यूजन तब था जब आपने फ्लाइट का बताया था, तो हमारे दिमाग में अमेजोन इंडिया आ रहा था.
yes,
बट आपने जैसे ही एग्जांपल नेक्स्ट बताया तो मेरे दिमाग में क्लियर हो गया कि फंक्शनल करेंसी वो होगी जहां पर ऑपरेशन इफेक्ट हो रहा है.
yes, absolutely right. So we have to look at which economic environment is determining crucial things related to my operations, like my costs, like my revenues. Okay. Kabhi you will be having, see again, this is theory. Real life में it's not exactly going to be a smooth sailing कि ऐसा होगा तो ऐसे ही करो. Many times you may have equal factors. Then there will come certain additional factors which you have to consider. So we'll all come to that. But right now, for the first level of understanding, my functional currency is the currency of the primary economic environment in which the entity operates. Flipkart, though the parent is Singapore based, okay, you are going to determine the pricing of your goods in INR for the Indian market, for the Indian customer. You cannot do the pricing based on Singapore. And therefore, Flipkart's functional currency continues to remain in INR. Amazon India. Amazon India is having Amazon US also operating, is having its own subsidiary in India that is responsible for whatever you see, Prime Video, Deco, Prime, what you say, that things you buy on Amazon, right? So the marketplace you think. Who is determining the pricing on Amazon? Which country determines the pricing on Amazon India? Is it Amazon US or is it our Indian market that determines the pricing?
Indian market.
US. Indian.
Indian market, US नहीं है हमारा determination. Yes, it's the Indian market. Amazon US operates out of there. Today, if I look at my Prime subscription, I may be paying some 1,500 rupees or 2,000 rupees per annum. Do you think the same charges will be there for Prime US? Answer is no. वहां पे it will be $400 or $500. If you convert it into INR, it will be 4,000-5,000 rupees. See, so if that had to be the basis for determining the pricing, then I should have had similar pricing as US dollars. But do I have similar pricing? Answer is no. And therefore, my economic conditions of India are determining the pricing of Amazon. Today, Amazon hires tech employees. It hires finance professionals. It hires housekeeping staff. Do you think Amazon India will pay the salary based on United States salaries?
No.
अगर वो ऐसा करेगा तो everybody will form a queue for working for Amazon. Okay, but nothing happens as per Amazon US. Amazon US gives you a working time of what you say 9 to 6 strictly. But do you think Amazon India gives that freedom? It's Indian market. The labor laws are not strict here. So therefore, excess working, all these things are common because that is the environment in which India operates. And that is influencing Amazon's pricing. And that is influencing Amazon India's cost. And therefore, Amazon India's functional currency will be INR. Will be INR. Are we okay with the first part of functional currency?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. Yes, sir.
Kameshwari, are you okay? And she's there on the chat. I hope you are fine. All right. Now, let us come to the presentation. Okay. The primary economic environment will normally be the one in which it primarily generates and expends cash. Obviously, 99% of the cases, 99% of the cases, it will be the country in which the entity is located. Because you cannot you cannot price your products or you cannot incur the cost in a vacuum. In a vacuum का मतलब समझते हो? Today, if I am setting up an entity in India, and I am the parent company situated, let us say, in US, I cannot price my product in India by being immune to the Indian economic conditions. वो नहीं हो सकता है. Yes, Indian economic conditions alone will ensure my product is saleable. If I do the pricing as per US, then something is seriously wrong in the thought process that we have. Yes, something is seriously wrong. Today, there are hardly few companies which are able to, achieve that. Okay. You take a company like Apple, for example. Apple's iPhones are priced at what value? Say about $1,000. Okay, say about $1,000 roughly. So $1,000 means what? It comes to around 85 to 90,000 rupees. यहाँ पे इंडिया में 90,000 का आईफोन comes to India at a price of around 1,50,000 to 1,60,000. This increase of 50-60% or almost 80% happens because of customs duty and it happens because of GST. Otherwise, Apple is almost pricing its phones at similar pricing compared to the United States. So Apple is an exception. Apple is an exception. So there, what happens in Apple is, in India, the pricing is getting impacted by the US market. But does Apple have its own subsidiary in India? Probably it does. But the costs of Apple India will be local based. The costs won't be US based. Okay. So that is the advantages that multinationals have. That is the advantages that multinationals have. High quality products can command a premium pricing. So the US market influences them, but their costs are dependent on the Indian factors. So now we end up having a time. Now we end up having a time. Is it okay? Yes. Are you able to follow?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So tie के केस में क्या करना है? Let us look at that. Okay, we will look at that later. But as I said, 99% of the cases, it will be the currency of the location where the entity is situated. Okay, the currency of the location. In some cases, it could be a different currency. So is it a choice? Can I choose my functional currency? Answer is no. You have to determine it. It's a determinable currency. It is something that you have to identify based on the facts of the case. It's not something that you have to identify just out of your whims and fancies. Okay. So entity needs to determine it. So that is the critical point of functional currency. So my primary indicators, I have explained this to you. It could be the sales price for its goods and services. I gave you the example of Flipkart, Amazon, ABC India LLP. Okay. Currency of the country whose competitive forces and regulations determine the sales price of its goods and services. So therefore, Air India and Indigo are only the two major airlines operating. There is one small airline called SpiceJet, which is there, but which is too small. So when I have to determine the pricing of my flight, let us suppose from Bombay to Delhi, Air India has to determine the price. It will look at the competition Indigo's flight and then it will determine the pricing. Ultimately, they all converge to a market value. Ultimately, they all converge to a market value, to a fair value. But what I'm trying to highlight is it is the competitive forces that determine the sales price of its goods and services. Okay. And finally, the currency that majorly influences labor, material, and other costs of providing goods and services, often the currency in which these costs are denominated and settled. So, I gave you all these indicators through my examples. I gave you all these indicators through my examples. Okay. So, what is the emphasis? It is on the currency that determines the pricing rather than the currency in which the transactions are denominated. I told you, determination is the deciding factor. Denomination is just a conversion. That can never be the basis for identifying your functional currency. Okay. Now, suppose I get a type, a country like Apple, a company like Apple, for example, or you have a type where sales are getting influenced by certain entities, what you can say, economic environment, by certain countries' economic environment, and costs are getting determined based on the local environment here. There ends up as a type. There ends up as a type. Now, secondary indicators. We then look at the secondary indicators, that is the currency in which funds from financing activities are generated. Ultimately, to carry out your operations, you need money. You need money. So how is that money coming from? How is that money coming from? Is that money taken as a loan in US dollars? Or is it taken as a local cash credit facility from the bank? That is something that you will have to check. That is something that you will have to check. Currency, another indicator could be currency in which receipts from operating activities are usually retained. So when the company collects money, does it retain it in INR or does it convert and repatriate the money immediately? That is something which could be another indicator. If it remains in INR, then obviously you have INR related costs, and therefore the costs are determinable based on the economic environment of India. So therefore, the secondary indicator will indicate that INR is your ultimate functional currency. Are we okay with this? Yes, all right.
Yes, sir.
Confirm. Monica ने भी confirm कर दिया. Jeannie also confirm. ठीक है. All right. Fine. John confirm. Hemant also confirm. Okay. Fine. ठीक है. So now let us look at some illustrations. Okay. All right. Future Limited sells a revitalizing energy drink that is sold throughout the world. Sales of the energy drink comprises over 90% of the revenue of Future Limited. For convenience and consistency in pricing, sales of the energy drink are denominated in US dollars. All financing activities are in its local currency, L dollar, although the company holds some USD cash reserves. Almost all the costs incurred by Future Limited are denominated in L dollars. What is the functional currency of Future? Read the question, think and give answer. Don't look at your study module. Okay. What will be your functional currency? Just give me a minute.
Sir, dollar.
यस, किसी ने डॉलर बताया था। वो आंसर।
पूजा सर।
आपने लिखा भी है क्या?
यस सर।
अच्छा, ओके, ऑल राइट, फाइन। एल डॉलर्स, ओके। व्हाट अबाउट द अदर्स? जिनी, व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
Sir, it will be uh, dollar, sir.
डॉलर मतलब यूएसडी और एल?
Sir, it is L.
एल डॉलर्स, ओके, ऑल राइट। मोनिका?
$L सर।
एल डॉलर्स, ऑब्वियसली।
सर यहाँ पे कोई इंडिकेशन नहीं है कि कुछ इन्फ्लुएंसेस दूसरे फैक्टर्स का इंडिकेट कर रहा हो।
Yes. So what they have said is, it is only for convenience and consistency that sales are denominated in dollars. ठीक है, that's okay. It's just a denomination. Pretty much like the example of Emirates that we gave, where it is denominated in INR because हम Indians book कर रहे हैं. So if somebody tells me the flight from Dubai to Sydney is 20,000 dirhams, I don't really know how much is it worth, how much it will set me back when I have to book the flight. So therefore, when I log in and I try to book my flight, you can even check right now just for the sake of checking. You need it in dollars. I mean, you need it in INR. Your brains will not work if you see a foreign currency immediately. See, ultimately, we have to cater to the requirements of the business. Ultimately, we have to cater to the requirements of the business. If my customer base is in that country, US dollars is the price to go to do it going forward. But ultimately, here what they said, it is only for convenience and consistency. They have said all financing activities are in L dollars. And there are some US cash reserves. All the costs of the future company is denominated in L dollars. What is the functional currency? So costs come in there, financing happens in L dollar, and therefore your functional currency is L dollar. Okay, so that is done. All right. Now, let us move on to the next one. All right. Sometimes what can happen is an entity could be a foreign operation. It could be a foreign operation. What is a foreign operation? We saw that, right? We saw what is a foreign operation. It could be a subsidiary, associate, joint arrangement, or branch of a reporting entity. Okay. It could be any of these things. So now if my entity is a foreign operation, then you are going to look at 4 things to determine the functional currency. What are those things? What is my nature of activities? When I talk about foreign operations, let us take, for example, a company like, इसका नाम ले सकते हैं. Let us take a company like, let us take a SBI, State Bank of India. Okay. State Bank of India is having branches in London, branches in the United States, branches in Singapore, branches in Australia. Now, State Bank of India, which is situated in these foreign entities, do you think it has autonomy, or is it ultimately going to work exactly the way State Bank of India tells it to do? Do you think SBI branches outside India will work independently, or for everything they have to come back to SBI India and ask?
Work independently.
They cannot work independently, because ultimately SBI is answerable to RBI, and RBI has its own set of stringent regulations on SBI. So SBI branches outside India will ultimately have a very strict regulatory control, a very strict operational control delivered by SBI India. SBI branches are only what we can, मतलब क्या है? Suppose I have some Indian, हमारे ही लोग वहां जाके काम कर रहे हैं, they had their SBI account here, तो उनको they wanted some local bank there, तो SBI का branch दिख गया, they went and opened the account in SBI London. SBI London में they only have an account, but ultimately that SBI London is not independently taking any decisions, Tomorrow, suppose these people want to take a loan from SBI London, then the loan application will come to SBI India. SBI India will then approve it. Then SBI London as a branch will only disburse the loan, collect the installments, collect the interest, and repatriate it to SBI India. Are you able to understand? Yes. So that London entity is only an extension counter. See, some people feel happy when they can see the bank in front of their eyes. ओके कुछ लोग वैसे होते हैं, रोज बैंक देखते हैं तो उनको खुशी मिलती है कि बैंक सही सलामत है, मेरे पैसे सही सलामत है. So these people probably go under that category. So to satisfy such people, SBI has opened its branch account. So then people can come to SBI every day, spend some time and go back. So for such people, that SBI branch is only an extension counter और कुछ भी नहीं है. It is as if you are interacting with SBI Andheri, for example, but it is there in London. सिर्फ लोकेशन का फर्क है. एटीट्यूड ऑफ SBI London is same as SBI Andheri, is same as SBI Bangalore. They basically are their own bosses. Okay, the customer comes to.
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन है, मैं आपसे हिंदी में ही पूछूंगी क्योंकि रीजन इज मेरे माइंड में क्वेश्चन हिंदी में फ्रेम हो रखा है.
कोई बात नहीं.
सर अब यूके में खुद की पीआरए है जिसमें रिपोर्टिंग्स करनी पड़ती है सारी बैंक्स को, लाइक HSBC यूके और ऑल ऑफ देम, एंड दे जस्ट लाइक आरबीआई वो अपनी लैंडिंग रेट डिफाइन करते हैं. उस लैंडिंग रेट पे जितना भी वो कंपटीशन के अकॉर्डिंग, जैसे हम बैंक्स में भी कंपटीशन होता है, लाइक ICICI से जब आप होम लोन लेने जाओगे तो वो आपको 8-8.5% रेट बताएगा. वैसे ही दूसरे बैंक्स भी आपको वही रेट बताते हैं. सेम रेट आपका ऑलमोस्ट कुछ बेसिस पॉइंट का डिफरेंस होता है और वही रेट आती है. तो कैसे पॉसिबल है कि SBI जो लंदन में बैठी है वो इंडिया की रेट, मतलब इंडिया के RBI रेट्स को ऐड करके अपना रेट यूके में दे सकती है?
वो इंडिया का रेट नहीं लेगा, वो लेगा लंदन के ही रेट्स. बट अगेन, अगर उसको इंटरेस्ट रेट फाइनलाइज करना है, कैन इट डू सो इंडिपेंडेंटली? आंसर इज नो. दे विल से लंदन में ये रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट चल रहा है, ये रेट ऑफ बोरोइंग चल रही है, ये रेट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट चल रही है. आप बताओ कौन से रेट कस्टमर को कोट करे. फॉर एवरी डिसीजन दैट हैज टू बी मेड, इट हैज टू कम फ्रॉम SBI India. SBI India will not obviously impose the rate of SBI of India. वो नहीं कर सकता, because people will not even come to SBI London in that case. Because in London, probably the borrowing rates will be in the range of 6 to 7% at the most. Jabki India mein you have 8.5, 9, 10%. Working
Yes,
capital
sir.
facilities can go even higher. But in a currency like GBP or USD, the borrowing rates are very low there. So you cannot obviously price the product at these rates. But what I'm trying to tell is, if it has to take a decision of varying a few basis points to retain the customer, SBI UK does not have that autonomy. SBI UK has to fall back to SBI India. Ki, sir, HSBC is offering 5.5%. Customer अच्छा है. Can I go for 5.2%? This 0.3% का जो variation है ना, that decision also SBI UK cannot take. It has to come back to SBI India. उसको हम लोग बोलते हैं absence of autonomy. Absence of autonomy. Right?
Okay, sir.
You
Okay, sir.
are, you will definitely you will operate within the regulatory framework of UK. आपके पास ऑप्शन नहीं है. But my
Yes,
point
sir.
is, you have to fall back. Very basic thing. Let us move on to the next basic thing. मैं किसी को लोन दूं या नहीं? Can SBI UK decide independently? Answer is no. It has to come back to SBI India. And then once India does the review of the credit worthiness of that person, uska credit worthiness will not be reviewed based on Indian norms again. It will be reviewed based on UK norms. But where is the power sitting? Is it sitting in UK or is it sitting in India? It's sitting in
Yes,
India.
in India.
Sitting in India. इंडिया वाला जो भी बोलता है यूके चुपचाप फॉलो करेगा. So there we call it as absence of autonomy. Absence of autonomy. They follow regulatory framework, but ultimate answerable is to SBI India. And that is why SBI UK will operate only as an extension counter. Will operate only as an extension counter.
Just like a dummy, right?
Yes, it's just a window for SBI. That's it. और कुछ भी नहीं है. So now what SBI will do, it will collect the proceeds from SBI India, remit the loan, it will collect the EMI, pay it back to SBI India. Bas, that's it. It's just a collection and a receivable agent for SBI India. Business बढ़ रही है. SBI is also getting business. Customers are getting access to SBI through this counter. But that's about it. Okay, so one is nature of activities. That will help you to determine what will be the functional currency. If it operates as an extension, we saw, it could also operate with autonomy. It could also operate with autonomy. A country like Tata, for example, Tata Motors has a subsidiary called Range Rover or some such company. Jaguar, sorry. Jaguar is there, which is a JLR, which is there in what you call, I don't know, Jaguar, JLR, I get confused. But you have this entity which is a subsidiary of Tata. Now, these are high-priced vehicles. Which one? The one which is sold in London, JLR, Land Rover or something like that. Now, they are a subsidiary of Tata. Tata ka vehicle pricing you are all aware of. It is on an average, it starts with around, Nano was there a couple of years back, but now you have cars like, it starts up with Nexon, which is in the range of 10 to 11 lakhs. Then it moves on to some new Tata Curve was launched. Then you have Tata Harrier, Tata Safari. So it operates in the range of 10 lakhs to up end will be at the most 50 to 60 lakhs. The topmost I'm telling. Okay. ये Indian market का pricing हो गया. But if I look at the Range Rover or Land Rover pricing, that starts way high than 50 lakhs. So the entity is incorporated in UK. The entity has a manufacturing plant in UK. The entity has hired engineers, design and development engineers, line staff, operational line, shop floor employees, everybody from UK who are subjected to UK labor laws and not subjected to Indian labor laws. Their wages, their salaries, their working hours are all determined under the labor law of UK compensations. And the pricing of these vehicles is also in line with the UK market. That is why these vehicles are priced pretty high. These vehicles are priced pretty high. So now the entity makes the sale, collects the money, and it keeps the money with itself for expansion of operations or meeting its expenses as the case may be. So now you tell me, in this case, Tata Motors India, though it has a subsidiary in UK, is the subsidiary an extension counter of Tata, or is it operating with autonomy? Yes.
ऑपरेटिंग विद ऑटोनॉमी।
ऑटोनॉमी का मतलब वो अपने फैसले खुद ले रहा है। इट इज टेकिंग इट्स ओन डिसीजंस। मैं गाड़ी कितने में बेचूं, हाउ मच स्टाफ डू आई नीड, व्हाट डू आई डू, पैसा जब आएगा, व्हेन आई गेट द मनी, how do I deploy it? Do I keep it in a bank? Do I build a corpus? Do I repatriate it to my parent as dividend? All these decisions will be taken by the subsidiary alone without any interference from the parent. The parent may, at the most, you may ask them, do you want to declare dividend? See, parent is holding the shares of the subsidiary, so parent can ultimately demand dividend at any point of time. All they have to do is call a meeting and then they will say, we need the money, let us declare a dividend. But declaring a dividend is not equivalent to losing autonomy. That is just one function that you have. Is it okay? Are you able to follow? Yes. So in this case, for that UK-based subsidiary, what will be the functional currency? Will it be GBP or will it be INR?
GBP.
It will be GBP. It is going to be GBP. Okay. So first is nature of activities. Next one is percentage of transactions. Whether transactions with the reporting entity are high or a low proportion of the foreign operations activities. Again, SBI का जो extension counter versus this Tata subsidiary, let us take the same case and move forward. I have to give a loan to my customer. If I have to give a loan to my customer, I should first get a drawdown from SBI India. वहां से जो पैसा आया वो मैंने लोन के तौर पे दे दिया. The borrower then pays EMI to SBI UK. UK will then transfer it back to SBI India. Interest will be paid. That interest will go back to SBI India. Then there will be small local expense allowance which will be given. So that will come from India to UK, and UK entity is going to spend it, is going to use that allowance. So now, if you see this, and every case में ये ऐसे होता है. Now you tell me, transactions with the reporting entity. SBI India is the reporting entity. SBI UK is a foreign operation. Is the transactions with SBI India very high or very low?
High.
Very high. It's almost nearing 95 to 100%. Because सब कुछ तो वही दे रहा है. Everything comes from there. And everything goes back also there. So therefore, your proportion of intercompany transactions are very, very high. So that is one indicator for determining what could be your functional currency. Coming to the next one, nature of cash flows. Whether cash flows from activities of the foreign operations directly affect the cash flows of the reporting entity and are readily available for remittance to it. And finally, funding. Whether cash flows from the activities of foreign operation are sufficient to service existing and normally expected debt obligation without being made available by the reporting entities. So these are certain indicators that you will have to look at when you are determining functional currency. Are we okay till now? Yes. All right. Okay. You can go through these 2-3 questions right now. Okay. Can you do this immediately? Question number 2, illustration 2, 3, and 4. Small India Private Limited, a subsidiary of Big, takes orders from Indian customers for Big INC's merchandise and then bills and collects for the sale of the merchandise in rupees. Small also has a local warehouse in India to facilitate timely delivery and ensures that it remits to its parents all cash flows that it generates as operations of Small are primarily financed by Big INC. Big INC is based out of US and has its functional currency as USD. What is Small's functional currency? Bolo. Yes.
Dollar.
Dollar. What about others? Pooja ने बता दिया. Jeannie also has written. Monica?
$1.
Obviously. Because what they have said is all cash flows go back to the parent. Okay. Operations of Small are financed by Big INC. So since all of that is given, your functional currency is USD. Your functional currency is USD. Coming to the next one. A is an Oman-based company having a foreign operation B in India. The foreign operation was primarily set up to execute a construction project in India. The functional currency of A is OMR. Okay. What is OMR full form? I don't know. मुझे तो अभी तक वो सिर्फ OMR शीट जो आपको मिलता है ना MCQ सिर्फ वही है समझ में आता है. Okay. The functional currency of A is OMR, Omani Riyal or something it could be. 78% of entity B's finances are raised in USD by way of contribution from A. B's bank accounts are maintained in USD as well as INR. Cash flows generated by B are transferred to A on a monthly basis in USD in respect of repayment of finance received from A. Revenues of B are in USD, competitors globally based, tendering for the construction project happened in USD. B incurs 70% of the cost in INR, remaining 30% cost in USD. Since B is located in India, can it presume that its functional currency will be INR? ध्यान से क्वेश्चन पढ़ो. Think and give the answer.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir, its a functional currency would be USD, as the 78% of the finance have been raised in USD only.
Okay. Okay. All right. और क्या है जो आप सब्सटेंशिएट कर सकते हो?
Sir, cost.
Okay.
30% of the cost in USD.
Okay.
And revenue also, right?
30% cost in USD indicates that 70% is in INR. Right?
Sir,
Sir, but
कैश फ्लोज जनरेट किया जा रहा है बी से वो उनको वापस ए को मंथली बेसिस पे पेमेंट हो रहा है.
yes, sir.
Okay. So you are saying that whatever is being generated is going back to A, Yes?
And sir, revenues also are in USD.
Revenue also are in USD. That's right. Okay. So all these factors point out that your functional currency is tilting towards US dollars. Your functional currency is tilting towards USD. Let me give you the reasons why it is tilting towards USD. Okay. Now, if you look at the way the institute has worded this, answer is correct. USD जो आपने बता दिया, that's absolutely right. Let me see my solution. Yes. Okay. Since B is in India, can it presume? So B cannot presume INR as its functional currency. One is you look at primary indicators. Indicators which influence the selling price for the goods and services, labor, material, and other costs of providing goods and services. Other factors, that is secondary indicators, funds from financing activities, receipts from operating activities are retained in which currency. If it is a foreign operation, you will look at these 4-5 conditions. Now, in this case, revenues and competitive forces are in USD. Somewhere they said bidding happens in USD, right? Somewhere उन्होंने बताया है ना, tendering happened in USD. Okay. Significant portion of cost is incurred in INR. Only 30% costs are in USD. 78% of the finances have been raised in USD, retains operating cash flows partially in USD and partially in INR. Keeping these factors, USD should be considered as the functional currency of B. Are we okay with this? Yes.
Yes, sir.
आपको लगता तो है कि समझ में आ गया है. Okay, all right. Next, let us move on to illustration 4. S Limited, company based out of India, which got listed on Bombay Stock Exchange in the financial year ended 31st March X1. Since then, the operations have increased considerably. The company was engaged in the business of trading of motorcycles. The company only deals in imported motorcycles. These motorcycles are imported from US. After importing the motorcycles, these are sold across India through its various distribution channels. Company had only private customers earlier, but the government also started corporate tie-ups and increased its customer base to corporates also. The purchase of the motorcycles are in USD because the vendors from whom these motorcycles are purchased, those are all located in the US. All other operating expenses of the company are incurred in India only because of its location, and they generally happen to be in INR. Currently, its customers are both corporate and private, approximately in the ratio of 70 to 30%. USD denominated prices of motorcycles in India are identified from those in other countries. The company is also expecting that in the coming years, its customer base will increase significantly in India, and the current proportion may also change. Currently, invoices are raised to the corporate customers in USD for the purpose of hedging. However, private customers don't accept the same arrangement, and hence invoices are raised to them in INR. What would be the functional currency of this company?
For INR.
INR. अच्छा, और बाकी लोग पढ़ रहे हैं. Yes, what about the equities?
So because it influenced by the market condition of India
हाँ
and
जी,
the pricing is converted into India, the
हाँ जी.
revenue is also converted into India.
Yes. Yes. That's right. Everybody is saying it's INR. That's absolutely right. What is happening is the purchase of the motorcycles are in USD because the vendors are all located in US. So that's obvious. Today, when I buy certain materials from outside India, it happens that what you can say, when I purchase some things from outside India, they'll be denominated in US dollars. So that's perfectly fine. That cannot in any way change your functional currency. Okay. All other operating expenses of the company are incurred in India only because of its location, and they generally happen to be in INR. Okay, so that is done. Currently, its customers are both corporate and private in the ratio of 70 to 30 respectively. Corporate, private. Prices of motor cars in India are different from those in other countries. Companies also expecting that in certain years, customer base will increase significantly in India. Currently, invoices are raised to corporate customers in hedging for the in USD for the purposes of hedging. However, private customers don't accept, and hence invoices are raised to them in INR. What would be the functional currency of this company? It would be INR. It would be INR. Any doubt so far?
No doubt, sir.
No doubts. So, Monica, sab theek?
Yes, sir.
Pooja, all clear? She has given a thumbs up. Okay, fine. So let's move on. Hemant, hope it's fine. Niranjan, hope it's fine. Anu, hope it's fine. All right. So let's move ahead. Functional currency. When the above indicators are mixed, can it happen in life? ये लाइफ में ऐसे ही चीजें होती है. आप सीधे सीधे कुछ पढ़ के जाते हो, उसका एप्लीकेशन डायरेक्टली तो होगा नहीं. यू विल हैव रियल लाइफ प्रैक्टिकल सिनेरियोस, a different ball game altogether. So when the indicators are mixed and the functional currency is not obvious, then management will be required to use its judgment to determine the functional currency. So when indicators are mixed, I am unable to identify based on these rules, then the management will have to use its judgment that most faithfully represents economic effects of underlying transactions, events, and disclosures. Management has to give priority to the primary indicators before considering other indicators, which are designed to provide additional supporting evidence to determine an entity's functional currency. So, typically what happens is management will want to report that currency as its what you can say as its functional currency, which has what we can say if currency has moved adversely. So management wants to report a currency which has not moved adversely as its functional currency. So that is typically very common. So then you will have to consider implications for audit under SA 315, risk of management bias. Okay, so that is done. Now, you also have to remember that whenever you do your analysis of functional currency, you will first check whether primary conditions are fulfilled and then if secondary conditions are fulfilled. So don't do do the secondary indicators first, okay? Because in the previous question I saw, I think somebody said financing happens in the very first part. Okay, don't bring that in the first part. Bring that towards the end. Bring that towards the end. Okay, so that takes care of this part also. And why is functional currency important? Very simple. Journal entries are passed in the functional currency. Journal entries are passed in the functional currency. An entity's functional currency reflects the underlying transactions, events, and conditions that are relevant to it. Accordingly, once determined, the functional currency is not changed. So functional currency should not change generally. Okay. Unless there is a change in those underlying transactions, events, and conditions. If the functional currency is the currency of a hyperinflationary economy, it cannot avoid restatement in accordance with Ind AS 29 by selecting some other currency as its functional currency. Have you heard hyperinflationary economy?
No, sir.
किसी ने यहाँ पे सुना है? अनु, मोनिका, Jeannie, Pooja? No. एक एग्जाम्पल देता हूं आपको. ओके, आई गिव यू एन एग्जाम्पल. ये रियल में हो रहा है. ओके, एटलीस्ट दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई रिकलेक्ट, which was very much prevalent. There is a country जिसका नाम इतना कॉमन नहीं है, बट यू वुड हैव हर्ड अबाउट इट. जिम्बाब्वे. You heard this country?
Yes, sir.
This is situated in Africa.
Yes, sir.
So what happened here, what used to happen here was Zimbabwe dollar was their currency. Okay, Zimbabwe dollar. Now, suppose you are operating in uh, Zimbabwe. Let us suppose you are a businessman operating in Zimbabwe. You go to the Zimbabwe bank and you take a loan of $100,000. Okay, and you want to borrow this money only for 5 days. कुछ बहुत ही ज्यादा emergency है. So you have borrowed this loan for, you have taken this loan for $100,000. Now, what the bank would do is they would collect post-dated checks from you. They would collect post-dated checks from you for $800,000. That is the level of inflation that they had, that they still have. Okay, that means what? This is Zimbabwe dollars. Okay, means within a matter of 5 days, their currency would multiply 8 times. Matlab, the paper currency that they had is virtually zero. They used to take, let me give you some more interesting insights. They used to take 10 million Zimbabwe dollars at the height of inflation. 10 million Zimbabwe dollars they used to pay for one packet of bread. आपको पता है, इसको बोलते हैं हम हाइपर इन्फ्लेशनरी इकोनॉमी. वी कॉल दिस एज हाइपर इन्फ्लेशनरी इकोनॉमी. समझ में आ गया? Yes.
Just like that, so I don't know the year in which this type of news came in about Greek also, no?
Greece also was there. See, the problem with Greece was, I will tell you what is the problem with Greece. But first, let me
Yes.
complete this Zimbabwe.
Yes, sir.
So just imagine you are preparing the financial statements of a company that is incorporated in Zimbabwe with the Zimbabwean dollar as its functional currency. You will prepare, and that is under IFRS. You will prepare a balance sheet 31st March 2024, a P&L, everything, and you will have a comparable of 31st March 2023. Sales. Suppose it is 10 million here. Okay. The sales for the year ended 31st March 2024 could be 10,000 million. Is it because your sale has gone up so much? Answer is no. Your currency has become worthless. जिस currency में आप deal कर रहे हो, that currency has lost value. That is why your sales has gone up from 10 million to 10,000 million. Are you able to understand? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
तो इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं हाइपर इन्फ्लेशनरी इकोनॉमी. इफ आई प्रेजेंट दीज फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स टू माय बोर्ड, they will say what a wonderful performance, but is it your performance? The country in which you are operating, that country's economic stability itself is in question, and therefore this is a meaningless financial reporting. So we have a different standard that is there, Ind AS 29, that deals with reporting in hyperinflationary economies. So in hyperinflationary economies, what happens is you change the base of your reporting. Okay. Similarly, what Zimbabwe did was they changed their currency. Today you go to Zimbabwe, all transactions happen in US dollars. You want to buy bread, you take $6 in your pocket, go to the store, pay $6, get your bread and come. You cannot deal in their own currency. You cannot deal in my own home currency because my home currency is just pieces of paper. आपके जेब से 10 मिलियन जिम्बाब्वे डॉलर गिर गए, गिरने दो. It is just a weight that you are carrying in your pocket, nothing more than that. It's equivalent to trash. How did this come about? Incessant printing of notes. Okay. पैसा नहीं है बोलते थे, नोट छापते थे. They just went on printing the notes without backing it up with securities. तो इसके वजह से क्या हो गया? The currency lost its shape. Okay, currency lost its value. So this is hyperinflationary economy. Now, when I come to this, if the functional currency of the entity is the currency of a hyperinflationary economy, Zimbabwean dollar, okay, then it cannot avoid restatement in accordance with Ind AS 29 by selecting some other currency as its functional currency. So suppose I am working for a company which has the Zimbabwean dollar as the functional currency. What it tells is, this case, these are not comparable. These are not comparable. So what Ind AS 29 requires is there has to be a restatement of the previous period's figures. They have to restate it and bring it in line with the current period's inflation index. So when I bring it in line to the current period inflation index, possibly it may come to 9,950 million. Okay, so they have to restate the previous period's function, the previous period's currency, previous period's balance sheet, P&L, cash flow, everything has to be restated. साल में एक बार करना होगा तो ठीक है, but what if you are doing quarterly reporting? Quarterly reporting में you are comparing. If I have to do 30th June 2024, I will have comparative audited of 31st March 24, comparative of 30th June 2023. So now I have to restate March 24 also. I have to restate June 23 also. So I will have two restatements in one quarter followed by actual reporting. And these two restatements will be done even if you are reporting the balance sheet, P&L, cash flow. For each of those items, you will do the restatement. Are you able to answer? Yes? Are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
समझ में आ गया? Now you tell me, is this restatement easy or difficult? अच्छा, रीस्टेटमेंट में मेहनत लगता है या फिर आसान है? बोलो यार.
Complex somewhat.
मेहनत लगती है.
तो लगता है
नॉट
सर।
जस्ट आप बैलेंस शीट ले लो, मल्टीप्लाई बाय द इन्फ्लेशन इंडेक्स एंड देन फिनिश इट. ऐसा नहीं होता है. ओके, इट्स नॉट वेरी इजी. ओके, every time in India, what do? We pick up last reported figures, put current figures and issue the results. Zimbabwe mein I cannot do that because they are not comparable. So I have to do the restatement. So what entities would do? Entities would say, my functional currency is hyperinflationary. So therefore I will take USD as my reporting currency. And in this, it is stable. So therefore, no need of restatement. The standard tells you cannot do that. Your functional currency is Zimbabwean dollar. You have to do the restatement every single time you are doing your reporting. Are we okay with this? Yes?
Yes, sir.
It cannot avoid restatement. Okay. Coming to the situation of Greece. Greece में क्या हुआ था? I presume the government itself went bankrupt or there was a serious economic crisis in the government. So the value of government bonds itself became worthless. The value of government bonds itself became worthless. If you remember, financial management, there is something known as, you remember this capital asset pricing model? William,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
ये सीखा होगा ना आपने?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So William Sharpe's capital asset pricing model works on calculating the cost of capital. So how is the cost of capital determined? That is risk-free rate of interest plus
Yes.
market rate
Risk-free.
minus risk-free rate of
Risk-free.
interest multiplied by beta. यही करते थे?
Yes, sir.
At least something like this. I'm not an expert, but मुझे थोड़ा बहुत याद है. Not very
Yes,
sure.
sir.
Not very.
Yes, sir, ये कर.
The problem with Greece was this is worthless. इसका कोई nothing is there because risk free is what? Government securities. Today my government securities existence only was in question. That was the problem with Greece. Okay. You go
Yes, sir.
there, country का ही basis नहीं था. Okay. So in financial management also, the fundamental question that comes is the risk-free return really risk-free? That's something all of us have to ask. Is my risk-free return really risk-free end of the day? Because when countries can go bankrupt, then what exactly is a risk-free rate of return? Then this whole model will come into question. Because when this model was postulated, all countries were perfectly fine. But today we have countries where countries themselves are going bust. So probably something to think from here. Okay. I don't have an answer to this. Okay. I don't have an answer because ये मेरा काम नहीं है, but this is something that you can think about it. Okay. All right. So that takes care of functional currency in totality. Now we come to two other small currencies, presentation currency and foreign currency. Okay. All right. ठीक है. So what is presentation currency? Presentation currency is the currency in which the financial statements are presented. सर अभी तो आपने बोला फंक्शनल करेंसी में फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाओगे. That is the requirement of Ind AS or that is the requirement of IFRS. You have to pass the journal entries in the functional currency. Yes. But presentation currency is what? You just change the currency and give your financial statements. Principles remain the same. Ind AS principles for all other standards remain the same. So you prepare your trial balance in functional currency and then you just convert that trial balance in functional currency to trial balance in presentation currency. Presentation currency is not the same as foreign currency. Okay. Foreign currency is different. Presentation currency means a currency that you use for the purposes of reporting your numbers. For reporting your numbers. Okay. So now, for example, let us suppose that we have companies like Coke, etc., which is basically a US based company, Coke is having its wholly owned subsidiary in India, Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages or something like that. Okay. Now, Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, think and answer. What will be the functional currency of Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages? Will it be dollar? Will it be INR? Okay. Yes, two answers I got. Both are correct. बताइए. People, Nisha, Jeannie, Monica, Pooja, what will be the functional currency of Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages? Okay, Nisha also answered. सोच के जवाब दो. You go to US. The price of Coke could be $10. The price of Coke could be $10 for, let us assume, a 750 ml bottle. Okay. Here, the price of the same beverage is 40 rupees or 50 rupees. Think and answer. What will be your functional currency for Hindustan Coca-Cola beverages? I didn't give you the facts purposely because I want you to think. Yes. Monica?
Yes, sir.
कौन सा होगा करेंसी हिंदुस्तान कोका कोला का, INR या USD?
INR.
It has to be INR because plants are set up in India, labor force is in India, cost of raw materials, water, carbon dioxide, whatever they put in that is procured from India. That recipe is the only thing that comes from the United States. As long as you mix that contents in that recipe, your output will be the same. The labor force is India. The top management salaries are Indian-based salaries. The pricing is suited for India. Pricing is determined based on economic environment of India. So therefore, your functional currency for Hindustan Coca-Cola is INR and not USD. But Hindustan Coke is a subsidiary of US Coke. Since it is a subsidiary of US Coke, the results of Hindustan Coca-Cola has to be consolidated into US Coke. If it has to be consolidated, it has to be converted from INR to USD. So USD when you present your financial statements in USD, what is it called? It is just a presentation change that you have done. It is just a change in the presentation currency that is done. Is it okay? So therefore, the presentation currency in this case is going to be US dollar. Functional currency is INR. Our reporting for the local requirements will happen in INR. But what are you doing for the foreign entity is making it a presentation currency based financial statements. Are we okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Generally, 99% functional currency is the presentation currency. You go to any of these companies, functional currency is the presentation currency. The numbers are reported in the same manner. Are we okay with this? Yes, no doubt.
Yes, sir.
So that takes care of this part. So presentation currency is a choice. यहाँ पे आप चुन सकते हो, मुझे USD में बनाना है, बनाओ. I want to present in Australian dollar. Please go ahead. I want to present in Swiss kroner or something like that. Please present. I want to present in Saudi riyals. Please go ahead. जितना प्रेजेंटेशन दुनिया भर के जितने करेंसी है सब में तुम अपना फाइनेंशियल बनाओ. Nobody is going to stop you. Okay. So therefore, this is a voluntary choice. Okay. So now you are having, so that's a presentation. Okay, I have an Indian entity which is selling the goods to a Spanish customer, and these was denominated in euros. So my functional currency, because this is an Indian entity, assuming it is impacted by the Indian economic environment, the functional currency was the INR. But it has to provide reports to its parent in the US. So this becomes the presentation currency. This becomes the presentation currency. Now, how do I do the translation of presentation currency, translation to the presentation currency? We will see this later. Okay. Translation to the presentation currency when the functional currency of the entity is not the currency of a hyperinflationary economy. Okay. We will see this later. When it is a hype currency of a hyperinflationary economy, we will have a look at this later. वो फिलहाल अपने को नहीं चाहिए. Okay, because it will only end up becoming theory for us. Okay, so with this, let us take a break. We will resume in 10 minutes. It's 8:50, so let us resume at 9. Is it clear so far? Yes, all well.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we'll take
Yes, sir, clear.
10-minute break. हम resume करेंगे 9 बजे. ठीक है. Okay. foreign currency transactions. So now, what does your foreign currency transaction mean? It is a currency which is denominated in or requires settlement in a foreign currency. What is foreign currency? Any currency other than the functional currency of the reporting entity becomes your foreign currency. So when we do this denomination or settlement in a foreign currency, that becomes a foreign currency transaction. Okay. So normally what will be your foreign currency transaction? Your foreign currency transaction could typically arise. It includes, example, it includes transactions arising when an entity buys or sells goods or services whose price is denominated in a foreign currency, buys, import, sells, export, borrows or lends funds when the amounts payable or receivable are denominated in a foreign currency, taking of external commercial borrowings, ECB is what they call, okay? Or otherwise acquires or disposes of assets or incurs or settles liabilities denominated in a foreign currency. So that we call as a foreign currency transaction examples. Okay. Now, initially, how are you going to recognize? Now, this is something all of us know. You only can tell me. Initial recognition कौन से rate पे होगा? AS11?
It's the conversion at the date of transaction.
At the date of the transaction. That is the spot rate. That's right. So a foreign currency transaction shall be recorded on initial recognition in the functional currency by applying the spot exchange rate at the date of the transaction. So anything new in this? Nothing new in this, right? This is exactly what you have already learned. Okay. Date of the transaction, the date on which the transaction first qualifies for recognition in accordance with Ind AS. That means we have to identify the recognition criteria under Ind AS. That date when it fulfills the recognition criteria, that will be the date of passing the journal entry. And the date when it fulfills the recognition criteria will be the date for determining the spot rate that you will apply for the transaction. Okay. Approximation, typically spot rate is the most accurate, but you can also use a rate that approximates the actual rate. For example, average rate for a week or a month you can use for transactions happening or occurring during that period. If exchange rates fluctuate significantly, use of an average rate for a period is inappropriate. So typically, like where I work, we do the exchange rate modifications on a daily basis, which is actually not necessarily required, okay? Because the fluctuations between INR and USD, for example, is not much. But still, we go for an accurate spot rates. So we do the updation in our systems on a daily basis. The first thing that Treasury does is they pick up the rates for the day, they make the changes in the system, and then whatever import-export transactions we have, it gets converted at the spot rate. Alternatively, since the variations are minimal, we can also do it on a weekly basis. Okay. Now, reporting at each balance sheet date. Are you aware of this? Come on, monetary items. Do I do a translation of these monetary items at the closing date? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And we use it at the closing rate. So what are monetary items? Items which can be converted or which are received or paid in fixed or determinable number of units of currency. Receivables, payables, lease liabilities, cash dividends, debt securities, cash, all these get converted into known amounts of cash. They get converted into known amounts of cash. And so therefore, these items will be translated using a closing rate, using the closing rate. Is it okay? Yes. Non-monetary assets, property, plant, equipment, inventory, right of use. Have you studied Ind AS 116?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you are aware of ROU assets. So PPE, all these are non-monetary items. That means I cannot have that converted into a specific known amount of units of currency. So therefore, these items, I have two options. I will either measure it at historical cost, in which case they will be translated using the exchange rate at the date of transaction without any restatement. They could alternatively, we do fair value measurement. So when they do the fair value measurement, you translate using exchange rate at the date when the fair value was calculated. So pretty simple. Any doubts here? No. So this is pretty simple. This is something you have been doing in AS11 also. Okay. Now, okay. Okay. I'm just seeing what can I teach before I proceed. Okay. So how do I report the effect of changes in exchange rates? Okay. So first one is you measure using the relevant Ind AS. That is the first step. The carrying amount is determined in conjunction with other relevant standards. For example, PPE could be at fair value or historical cost as per Ind AS 16. Then you do the translation under Ind AS 21. Whether the carrying amount is determined on the basis of historical cost or on the basis of fair value, if the amount is determined in a foreign currency, it is then translated into functional currency as per Ind AS 21. So first thing is measure using relevant Ind AS, then you go for the translation. Relevant exchange rate between functional currency and foreign currency. That is the first thing. When several exchange rates are available, rate at which future cash flows represented by the transaction or balance could have been settled if those cash flows had occurred at the measurement date. So you will look at that rate which is convertible, a more appropriate representation of the cash that is going to be realized, that is going to be collected. Where exchangeability between two currencies is temporarily lacking. That means the currencies are not freely tradable. Then first subsequent rate at which exchanges would be made is something that you are going to use. This is theory ho gaya. Okay. Now, sometime in some of our Ind ASs, the reported number will be determined as a comparison between two numbers. For example, inventories. We report it at lower of cost or net realizable value. You are aware of it. Assets with indicators of impairment. You will report at lower of carrying amount before impairment and recoverable amount. So you can see multiple comparisons are there. These comparisons gain significance. In light of the fact that along with this, there could also be a foreign currency fluctuation that could happen. There could also be the case of foreign currency fluctuation that could happen. Are we okay? Yes. So let us try to understand how do I do this working?
Sir,
Yes.
sir, exchange rate, what is exchange rate? जो आपने definition दी थी, the same as fair value rate.
Which one you are telling? कौन सा बता रहे हैं आप?
Sir, आप last slide, go back to it. 23. Sir, what is relevant exchange rate? Is equals to fair value rate, right?
ये वाला rate. Exchange rate between functional currency and foreign currency. This is the exchange rate. Okay. Relevant exchange rate. See, USD INR. What will be the exchange rate? The rate at which I can easily exchange my currency. So that is the first one. Okay, directly what is available. Is it okay?
Yes,
अभी
sir.
पूछ रहे हो ना?
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ये नहीं है, मेरा क्वेश्चन हिस्टोरिकल रेट एंड फेयर वैल्यू रेट पर है. दैट इज फेयर वैल्यू रेट, द सेम इज
अच्छा
फेयर वैल्यू रेट.
अच्छा, आप ये वाली बात कर रहे हो क्या?
यस सर,
ओके,
फेयर वैल्यू वाज मेजर्ड.
ये हम्म, अच्छा, कुछ नॉन मॉनेटरी आइटम्स आर देयर like property plant equipment. Do I have two models? I can
यस
follow
सर.
cost model or revaluation model.
यस सर.
So this is that fair value. This is not related to exchange rate fair value. Okay.
ओके सर,
Exchange rate is fair
एक्चुअली मैं
value.
कनेक्ट कर रही हूँ क्लोजिंग रेट से या फिर
हाँ,
एवरेज रेट से.
डोंट कनेक्ट दिस. सो
ओके.
सपोज कीजिए मैंने पीपीई का रिवैल्यूएशन किया बिकॉज आई फॉलो द रिवैल मॉडल. Now,
हम्म.
when I follow the reval model, the PPE is in foreign currency. Okay. So suppose this was $1,000. When I do the revaluation, 1,000 becomes 1,200. Let us suppose. So when
ओके.
1,000 becomes 1,200, which rate am I going to use? I will use the rate on the date of fair valuation. Okay.
ओके सर.
I will use that exchange rate on the date of fair valuation. But suppose it is at cost only, historical cost. Then I will use the rate that I had, that was the rate at the
इनिशियल
time,
करना है.
the initial exchange rate. Is it okay?
यस सर.
तो इसका exchange rate से कोई संबंध नहीं है. The rates are mentioned here. Okay.
ओके सर.
This is the accounting principle that I am following. Fair value model or revaluation model or cost model, whatever it is. Okay. All right. समझ में आ गया ना?
यस सर. यस सर, एक्चुअली कंफ्यूजन क्रिएट हो गया था
That's it.
क्लोजिंग रेट और
But
उसका.
अभी तो
ओके.
ठीक है. All right. Fine. That's good. All right. Now, there are some cases where the reported numbers is based on comparison between two variables. One is the cost and other is net realizable value in case of inventory. Same for impairment also. Carrying amount versus recoverable amount. And these are non-monetary items for which I made the payment in foreign currency. For which I made the payment in foreign currency. There could be numerous such cases. Okay, बहुत सारे cases हो सकते हैं ऐसे. So how do I do that? Compute cost of inventories or carrying amount of assets translated at the exchange rate at the date when that amount was determined. Example, transaction date for an item measured at historical cost. Then you compute the NRV or recoverable amount of assets translated at the closing rate. Carrying amount will be least of the asset will be least of step 1 and step 2. ये समझ में नहीं आया होगा. I know that. So what we will do is we will do two examples. एक example ये है which is from your study material, and one more example I will pull it out from inventories. Okay. So first let us come to the inventory related example. You can note this example if you want. Okay. Inventory. What is the principle? Lower of cost
cost or NRV.
or NRV. Okay, lower of cost or NRV. So now let us suppose my cost when I purchased the inventory on 1st January 2024 is $1,000. Is $1,000. When I purchased, the exchange rate was, let us suppose, rupees 50 per dollar. Is 50 crore? No, 52 crore. I can take it as rupees 80 per dollar. Okay. So, what is the cost in INR? 80,000. Is it okay? Yes. Jeannie,
Yes, sir.
NRV. NRV on reporting date. NRV $900. And on this date, your exchange rate, suppose hypothetically, rises to 90 per dollar. So 90 into 900. Rupees 81,000. Yes. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Why did I take the closing rate?
सर हम ये प्रिंसिपल जो है एंडिंग में देख रहे हैं एनआरवी क्लोजिंग रेट ऑफ द बैलेंस शीट
Is it because inventory is a monetary item, or is it because I have determined NRV at the reporting date?
The
बिकॉज आई
non
नॉन
Just
मॉनिटरी
for conversion purpose, sir, not valuation purpose.
No, this is a valuation as at the reporting date. Valuation at the reporting date. I have to do an NRV testing of my inventory. Do you agree?
यस सर
So NRV था मेरा 900. Now I found out the NRV at the reporting date, which is why I am applying the exchange rate at the date of valuation. Is it okay?
यस सर
अगर मेरा NRV होता ₹1,100, what rate would I have valued my inventory? Would I do 90 or would I go for 80? Think and answer. Is inventory a monetary asset or a non-monetary asset?
नॉन मॉनिटरी एसेट
Non-monetary.
Non-monetary. तो यही value चलता मेरा. This value only would continue. Is it okay? But today I am going for this rate, not because it is a monetary asset, but because I have determined the NRV to be 900. That is why I am converting that into INR. Are we okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Because the principle is what? Don't forget the principle. The principle states that whenever there is a fair valuation, NRV valuation, you have to use that exchange rate that is present at the date when the fair value or NRV was computed. Are we okay with this? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Sure? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Isha, did you follow? Anu, did you follow? Yes? All right, fine. Jeannie
Sir,
or
it is just like impairment loss, na? If the value goes down, then
yes.
we will do the impairment, and if value does not go down, goes up, then we will do nothing.
That's right. So we will check for impairment. उसका भी एक question है. But first we'll run through this. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So 81,000. Now my question to you is, do I write off the inventory? Everybody think and answer. Inventory write off होगा या नहीं होगा?
the cost is being the least of the both the things so no write off
But actually write off हुआ है ना $100 का. 1,000 has fallen to 900. Yes or no?
yes sir
Yes, sir.
So should I do a write off or should I not do a write off?
sir it is also going to be affected by the cost or of the final goods in which this inventory is to be
That's okay. वो सब करने के बाद मेरा ये नतीजा है. My inventory which I bought for 1,000, assume they are FGs only. Okay, I bought it for 1,000. They are now available at 900. In any case, we do this testing. See, raw material, NRV going below cost, you will have an implication only when ultimate FG goes below below cost, right? So now my question is, should I do a write-off? NRV write-off का मुझे entry pass करना पड़ेगा या नहीं? $100 का।
सर मेरी फंक्शनल करेंसी अगर डॉलर है तो
आपकी फंक्शनल करेंसी INR है यहाँ पे। यस,
सर देन
डॉलर
आई
इज करेंसी। यस, बताइए बताइए, आप कुछ बता रहे थे।
नो सर
Sir, if it is a foreign branch, we need to write off.
You will not do anything here because this is your functional currency and you are going to evaluate the inventories NRV only in INR terms, not in foreign currency terms. Ultimately, your inventory worth 80,000 is now worth 81,000. Yes or no? सर बट वो डॉलर
यस
अमाउंट कम हो गया तो ठीक है ना, साथ में एक्सचेंज रेट भी तो बढ़ गया है। Parallelly, your exchange rate also has gone up from 80 to 90. It's not a one-way street that you will get only $900. You will get $900 on this inventory, but when it is converted to INR, you will realize 81,000 rupees. You won't get 900 into 80, 72,000 because today's market rate of the dollar is 90 rupees per dollar. So even if I go for an immediate sale of this inventory, I will definitely pocket 81,000 rupees. Is there anything wrong in this understanding? Bolo?
नो सर
There is nothing wrong in this understanding. Okay. So therefore, what the standard tells is you do the impairment testing for, or you do this NRV testing in foreign currency. Please go ahead. But ultimately, when the time comes for taking the entry, you will not base the NRVs on this, sir, on the foreign currency. You will base your NRVs on the basis of the functional currency because your journal entries, see, understand the fundamental. Fundamental is what? What is my fundamental? Journal entries कौन से currency में होने हैं? My journal
फंक्शनल
Functional currency, INR.
functional currency, that's INR. And when your journal entries are happening in the functional currency of INR, there is no NRV drop happening in this case. So will I take any NRV entry for this? Answer is no, you will not take any NRV adjustment entry for this. Okay? Yes? All clear? Nisha, any doubts?
No, sir.
Perfect. Jeannie, Monica,
Yes, sir, clear.
समझ में आ गया? So
Yes,
you
sir.
don't forget the fact, functional currency वो सिर्फ theory नहीं है. That is the currency in which you pass your journal entries. Okay, that is the currency in which you pass your journal entries. Are we okay with this? Yes. So now, okay. Okay. Look at the steps that we followed. Okay. Compute cost of inventories. This is cost. Translated at the exchange rate when that amount was determined. So I computed cost in my example, it was $1,000 into 80,000. Correct? First step. Second step, compute NRV. NRV was how much? 900. Translated at which rate? Translated at the closing rate. What was my closing rate? Rupees 90. So this became 81,000 rupees. Yes? Yes or no? And finally, carrying amount of the asset in functional currency. What is your functional currency? Rupees 80,000. Rupees 81,000. Yes. So carrying amount will be least of step 1 or step 2. In my case, it is step 1 value of 80,000. Is it okay? Yes.
Yes, sir.
And this is the conclusion arriving out of it. Effect may be that an impairment loss is recognized in functional currency but not in foreign currency, or vice versa. Vice versa means an impairment loss is there in foreign currency. In my case, there is an impairment loss in foreign currency. 100 is falling, sorry, 1000 is falling to 900. There is an impairment loss of how much? $100. But I am not recognizing it in the functional currency. Are you okay with this? Yes,
Yes, sir.
you are understood. Okay, fine. So now, similar lines, we have this example one picked up from your study mat. Okay. An entity purchases an item of PPE amounting to 200,000 euros on 1st April 20x1. The exchange rate on the date of acquisition owing to was 1 euro equals 52 rupees. Owing to technological obsolescence, the management, as a part of impairment testing, determined the amount of the asset, estimated recoverable amount of the asset to be 175,000 euros. The exchange rate on the date of valuation was 1 euro equals 60 rupees. Discuss the implications of the above in line with the relevant standard. Can you quickly try this out by yourself right now and revert? I'll not solve it. Okay? I'll not solve it, but I'm hoping that you people will solve. तो क्विकली फटाफट करके बताओ मुझे.
Sir, here also the functional currency is rupees, na?
हाँ, दैट्स, अगर कुछ दिया नहीं है तो हम भारत में हैं, फंक्शनल
Yes, sir.
करेंसी रुपया ही है. ठीक है.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, then in the first case,
बताइए.
एक मिनट sir. हो गया.
So first case में कोई impairment loss नहीं है, only depreciation charge would be there according to the life of the PPA. And
Okay.
in the second case, it will be reduced to 90 lakhs.
हाँ, तो इम्पेयरमेंट लॉस कितना होगा? योर आंसर इज राइट. ओनली
14 lakhs.
15.
15 होगा सर.
15 होगा ना?
15.
Yes, sir. Impairment loss is 15 lakh.
ठीक है. So we follow the step. This is as per the standard. Step 1, determine the original cost of the asset. So original cost was how much? Euros 200,000 multiplied by rupees 52 per euro. So that comes to how much? That comes to
1050.
104 lakhs, na? 52 twos are 104. Yes. Step 2, determine the impaired value 175,000 multiplied by rupees 60 per euro. So this comes to how much? 105 lakhs.
105 lakhs.
So therefore, no impairment. अच्छा. Case 2 में step 2 would be euros 150,000 into rupees 60 per euro. So that will be rupees
90.
90 lakhs. Okay. So therefore, what will be your impairment loss?
So original cost 104 lakhs
Ah,
minus 90 lakhs, है ना?
yes, 14 lakhs, not 50. 1
हाँ.
minus 90, 14 lakhs. My bad. Okay, 14 lakhs. Are we okay with this? Depreciation and all will come, as Pooja rightly said, but इसमें data is not given. So I just took this, that this is the closing value after everything. So that's the impairment. Okay. All right. Fine. Clear? So that takes care of this concept in totality. Determination of carrying amount as two different, as a comparison between two values. Okay. Now, why do you have exchange rate differences? Why do we have exchange rate differences? One is on account of settlement of monetary items. You buy goods in foreign currency and you pay them subsequently. The rates could be different. You could either pay them in the same period or subsequent financial periods. जब भी करोगे, there will be a foreign currency fluctuation. Or it could be reporting an entity's monetary items at rates different from what they were initially recorded versus what is reported in the previous financial statements. Okay. So this is a case where monetary items are translated. So this is translated differences. Okay. This is translated differences. If I have to put it in two terms, this is your realized exchange differences. Yes, because there is a settlement that is happening. So this actually moves into your realized exchange differences, whereas the translation differences, is it realized or unrealized?
Difference is unrealized, sir.
Unrealized, sir.
Yes, that's right. Unrealized exchange differences. Perfect. Okay. Recognition of exchange differences. Monetary items, you will recognize it in the P&L in the period in which they arise. You will take it to the P&L in the period when they arise. Non-monetary items. If gain or loss on non-monetary item is recognized in other comprehensive income, then the exchange component also goes and sits in other comprehensive income. If it is recognized in P&L, then the gain or loss also goes and sits in P&L. Are we okay with this? Yes. Sir, सब कुछ तो P&L में जाके बैठता है ना? What goes and sits in OCI? You have not yet studied financial instruments, right?
Yes, sir.
Non-stop.
Financial instruments may we have measurement of investment in equity, which could be either FVTPL, fair value through profit or loss, or fair value through other comprehensive income. So when I do a fair valuation, all my equity instruments have to be compulsorily fair valued. Okay. So when I do a fair valuation, that movement in the fair value that will go either into PL or OCI depending on your choice. Depending on your choice. But along with that, the forex fluctuation है, that where it will go. That also will go depending on where the original gain or loss has gone. So that is why that is the segregation which is given. Where do I recognize my exchange differences? Hemant, are you okay? Yes, did you follow this? All right, fine. Okay. So that takes care of that part. I will take one small example for that. Okay. Okay.
Sir,
Hmm.
in the recent example of that PPE, we
Yes.
should make calculation assuming 10 years life, and then we should have given that impairment loss figure, because the date was given 1st April.
फर्स्ट जैन वो जो भी था ना. हम्म,
So ideally directly without considering depreciation हम नहीं बता पाएंगे कि ये 14 lakhs का ही impairment loss होगा करके.
your sentiments are appreciated and it is correct also, but यहाँ पे दिया नहीं है. I currently am not testing you on Ind AS 16. This question's intent is not to test you on Ind AS 16.
So this kind of question if come in examination, which is rare also because we बहुत ही simple है, but in that case we have to make a assumption regarding life taking as 10 years.
Don't assume such things. Okay. Why only 10? Tomorrow, Anu can take 15 years. Nisha can take 8 years. Monica can take 5 years. Hemant will take 3 years. वो एग्जामिनर का हालत देखो. आप यहाँ 5 लोग 5 एग्जाम का 5 assumption दे के जाओगे. पूरे एग्जाम में एटलीस्ट thousands ऑफ चिल्ड्रन गो टू हिम. वो बेचारा कैलकुलेटर लेके सबका कैलकुलेट करते फिरेगा. नहीं ना.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So please don't assume. Keep things simple. ये एग्जाम में don't go with us. At the most you write useful life of assets are not given, and therefore we have not yet we have not computed any depreciation on that. You write this assumption, काम हो जाएगा आपका. Okay.
Okay, sir.
हाँ, but disclaimer also डालता हूँ. In some examples, some cases, institute has assumed some useful life for some question. I don't recollect, but somewhere in financial management or somewhere they have done a very what you can say. मतलब वो question में there is no mention of that, but they still took an assumption and solved the question. It was an exception only. Okay, but if you ask me, don't do such things. Chances are you do the assumption, things may go wrong. Okay, so best thing, data नहीं है data करके लिखो. That's it. Okay, so at least examiner knows if the question had to give the data, this girl would have answered it with the depreciation, proper impairment, etc., etc. Okay. All right.
Yes.
ठीक है. Next one. So these are some couple of questions which we can just rush through it. Okay. Induga Limited purchased an equipment at a price of USD 100,000 on 2nd April upon terms of credit that the price should be settled within 6 months from the date of purchase. The company capitalized the asset in Indian rupees at a rate of exchange prevailing on the date of purchase, which is correct. The date of transaction, उस date पे जो spot rate है, at that rate it was capitalized, which is perfectly fine. When the liability was settled as per terms on 18th September 20x1, it incurred an additional amount of 3,50,000 due to exchange rate fluctuation on the date of settlement. The said sum was charged off to the profit and loss account. Please comment. This 3,50,000 is the exchange loss that is being incurred because when the liability was being settled, the exchange rate was higher. ठीक है? So this 3,50,000 has gone to the P&L. Are you okay? Have you understood the question? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
The question is this correct?
So as the liability is a monetary item, so exchange fluctuation P&L में ही जाना चाहिए.
Okay. What about? But this relates to a capital asset, na?
It's a capital transaction.
It's a.
Capital transaction.
That's right. So what should you do? Should I capitalize this exchange fluctuation into the cost of the asset?
So,
It goes to P&L.
It goes to P&L. What about the others, Monica?
Sir, we have to see the financial reporting end date.
You have to see. Okay. Okay. You people have studied AS 11, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
yes, sir.
AS 11 में there was a para 46, para 46A. Do you
Yes, sir.
recollect that? Para 46 याद है आपको? You may not know the para number, but I will tell you one thing. In respect of capital assets that you procured, there was a choice that was available to you. That choice entitled you to take any exchange fluctuation arising on settlement of a transaction pertaining to capital assets to be capitalized into the value of the property, plant, and equipment. This transaction, this provision, para 46, para 46A, came in the standard somewhere in 2011, 2012, because that time you people are now in CA final. I was in CA final at that point of time. So that time, the exchange rates were very volatile. They were very, very volatile. So therefore, the hits that were coming in the P&L were huge. So all these industry representatives, they went to the Corporate Affairs Ministry and then they said, you have to help us out. This is something which is not in our control. So what the Ministry of Corporate Affairs said was, all right, we will introduce two paras in AS 11 that will allow you to capitalize this as a one-time impact you can take in your financial statements. Wo provisions, even now they are continuing, para 46, para 46A. It was a one-time choice that was made available. So instead of taking the hit in the P&L entirely in 1 year, they could capitalize it in the cost of the asset, and then that would gradually go on getting depreciated. Is it okay? This option was there under AS 11. This option is not there under Ind AS 21. This option is not there under Ind AS 21. And that is why the treatment of charging the sum to the P&L account is, as Pooja rightly said, correct. And I think Hemant, all of you said that it is correct. Are you okay? Yes. So if you remembered para 46 and then you said the treatment is correct, very good. If you did not remember AS 11 para 46, in spite of that you said it is correct, then it is a chance that you got it correct. Okay. But nevertheless, my important submission is under Ind AS 21, put this in golden letters. First golden letter was what? Functional currency is the currency in which you pass your journal entries. The second golden words that you will have to note down is any exchange fluctuation on settlement will be going to the P&L, will be going to the P&L. You will not capitalize it in the value of the asset. Are we okay? Yes.
Sir, I think in the AS 11 there was second option of FCMI TD account reserve
Yes.
creation.
That is there. FCMI TDA account was also there. That was
Yes.
another option. That is para 46A is what I think. Okay.
Yes.
Foreign currency, monetary items, translation difference account.
Difference account.
FCMI TDA, right? So that option was also available. So what I want you to do is you have to remember these two things. That is capitalizing it in the value of the asset or taking it to FCMI TDA account, because these two things will become very critical when you are doing Ind AS 101, that is first time adoption of Ind AS. Because wahan pe kya hoga? You will be having certain assets where you are following either para 46 or you are following para 46A. And both these paras are not available under Ind AS 21. Okay. So there you would have capitalized something into the value of the asset. But today's date, you cannot capitalize, but the asset still continues. So then how do I do the first time adoption of Ind AS of these assets of that capital liability is something that Ind AS 101 explains to you. Is it okay? So anyways, this question is done. The treatment is correct, both the cases. Okay. Now coming to the next one. Indraprasth Limited purchased an equipment from a foreign country on 1st April 20x1 at a price of $150,000 upon credit terms that the price should be settled within 4 months from the date of purchase. Within 4 months. The company capitalized the asset, created liability for capital goods, converting the foreign currency liability at a rate of exchange prevailing on the date of purchase. When the liability was settled as per terms on 10th July, it incurred an additional amount of 6,75,000 rupees due to change in foreign exchange rate on the date of settlement. The company capitalized the additional amount of exchange variation and charged depreciation thereon from 10th July 20x1. Comment. Is it correct?
No.
No. Upper ka opposite. Okay. Not correct. It should be going to the P&L, right? So Pooja, Monica, Anu, Jeannie, all of you are good. Hemant also answered. Hemant understood. Okay. All right. Fine. ठीक है. So Indraprasth Limited. Okay. Next. Airavat Limited had imported raw materials worth $250,000 on 20th January when the exchange rate was 64 per USD. The company had recorded the transaction at that rate. The payment for imports was made only on 15th April when the exchange rate was rupees 66 per US dollar. On 31st March, the rate was 65. The company passed an entry on 31st March adjusting the cost of raw materials consumed for the difference between 66 and 64 per US dollar. Okay. The company's financial statements were authorized on 24th April. The company's contention was since the liability was settled at 66 before authorizing the financial statements, it accounted for the liability at rupees 66, treating it as an event occurring after the reporting period. Comment on the company's stand in this regard. Bolo. What is the company doing here?
Sir, here in this question, it is not capital item and sorry, it is a raw material.
Yeah, that's right.
So it is a P&L item also, not and we have to consider the average rate.
Oh, if you are having the
Sorry,
spot
sorry,
rate
sir.
of
It is part of inventory also, na?
Inventory, non-monetary.
Non-monetary item.
so January ko my rate was how much? 64. 31st March 20x1 65. Then I'm having settlement date is what? 15th April. Rupees 66 and 24th April approval of financial statements. Okay. Understand the question first. Let us understand the question first. Raw materials were purchased on 20th January 20x1. The rate on that date was 64. Settlement of this happened on 15th April when the rate was 66. 31st March, the rate was 65. The approval of financial statements happened on 24th April, that is after the settlement of the transaction. Okay. So let me tell you what the company has done. Okay. Let me tell you what the company has done. First thing, when it purchases account debit to creditors for import. This is how much? 250K into 64. Into 64. So that gives you 1 crore 60 lakhs. Is it okay? Fine. Then what the company did was on 31st March 20X1, it passed the entry cost of goods sold account debit to cost of goods sold or what?
सर जो डिफरेंस था 2 रुपीज का उन्होंने कॉस्ट इन्वेंटरी में एडजस्ट किया, मीन्स इन्वेंटरी
Yes.
कॉस्ट बढ़ा दी.
Yes. So cost of goods manufactured debit, not inventory cost nahi badhaya. Look at the words. The company passed an entry adjusting the cost of raw materials consumed. Okay. So what would have happened is purchases would have happened. Then these, okay, let me just thoda sa. What happens is this purchases essentially in your ERPs, this goes in as raw material inventory. It hits the inventory. Okay. It does not hit, there is no purchase account as such. It hits the raw material inventory.
Yes, sir.
Inventory comes in. Then what happens is you issue it for production. Okay. So when you issue it for production and when you are manufacturing the FG, what you will have is cost of goods manufactured debit to raw material inventory. Okay. So the cost hits your P&L when the FG is manufactured and you have closed the production order. Once you issue the inventory for production, it goes under a production order. After the production order is closed, when the FGs are manufactured, you close the batch. When you close the batch, what will happen is the inventory cost, the inventory moves from the inventory gets credited and the cost gets debited. So this is typically what happens in a manufacturing setup. This company is extra intelligent. So उन्होंने क्या कर दिया? Settlement is happening at 66. So 250,000 into 66 minus 64. 2 rupees into 250,000. They have put it into cost of goods manufactured and said that, and what is the justification that they are giving? What is the justification that they have given? See, I am settling my liability for 66. Number one. Second, my financials are approved after that. So the change in exchange rates, they are saying that it is a adjusting event. It is an adjusting event. That is why they have taken this impact in your financial statements. That is why they have taken this impact in your financial statements, and your financial statements are looking like this. So your creditors is actually appearing at 1 crore 60 lakhs plus 5 lakhs. 1 crore 60 plus 5, so 1.65 crores. And your cost of goods manufactured is 1.65 crores. Have you understood the treatment? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
This is what the company has done. And then they are saying that we want to take this stand. So you are required to comment whether it is correct or not. Okay. So what do you think? Is it correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Reason?
Stocks should be valued at the reporting period first, and then the settlement should be compared with respect to the settlement with respect to the amount recorded at the reporting period.
Okay. You're talking stock or creditors?
Uh, Creditors, sorry.
Creditors, because stock is no longer there in the system.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
Okay, so
Creditors.
creditors. So that's what I thought. I thought you said stock. You said you meant creditors. That's why I just crossed.
And creditors, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stock.
Okay.
I mean, credit.
Anu has also said. बाकी का क्या कहना है? मोनिका, आपको क्या लगता है?
सर रिपोर्टिंग डेट पे जो रेट होगी वो यूज लेंगे, ये जो एंट्री करी है उसने रॉन्ग करी है, मतलब दिस इज नॉट द वे कि आपने ट्रांजेक्शन्स को मॉडिफाइड कर दिया, क्योंकि इवेंट अकरिंग आफ्टर द रिपोर्टिंग डेट नहीं है, मतलब एडजस्टिंग इवेंट नहीं है.
Yes, absolutely right. Okay. And Hemant, what do you think?
Sir, the exchange rate is after the reporting date, so we should not take 66.
Absolutely right. Yes. So let us now collate all your informations. All of you have given the right answers. First one, is exchange rate fluctuation a part of cost of manufacturing goods?
No.
So, a debit is wrong. That is the first mistake what they have done. Okay. The second mistake that they have done is, as Hemant said, as all of you said, they have taken the rate of 66, which is a post-balance sheet date. See, you cannot say that it is an adjusting event because event हुआ ही नहीं है. This is a recurring phenomenon that is of exchange rate fluctuation. Then in that case, you will continuously go on restating every day. Yes. So therefore, you cannot call it as an adjusting event. Okay. So what should have happened is, let us look at the answer. What should have happened? Initial 1.6 crores. Then closing rate is 65. So 65 into 250. So 65 minus 64. 65 minus 64 into $250,000. So your net foreign exchange loss is only $250,000 and not $500,000. And this will go to the P&L. As all of you rightly said, when the actual settlement happens, a further loss of 250,000 will be booked in the next financial year. The treatment followed by the company is incorrect. The loss of 250,000 should be separately debited to the P&L as an exchange difference and disclosed as required under Ind AS 21. We cannot adjust or add the same to the cost of materials consumed. We cannot do that because this is not a part of margins. Okay, this is not a part of my margins. This is a part that is dependent on market exchange rates and not related to the efficiency of the production or the supply chain team. Are we okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that takes care of this question 3. Okay. Next one is a simple one about. All right, fine. Okay. Garuda Limited imported a machine on 1st January for 12,000 euros on deferred payment basis. Payment being made in 6 equal annual installments at every financial year end, commencing from 31st March 20x1 onwards. Determine the exchange differences and carrying amounts of the liability at the end of each financial year if the following exchange rates are given. So this is your 64, 63, 8, 70, all this are there. You can ignore amortization of financial liability in accordance with Ind AS 109 for the purposes of this question. Okay. All right. So ideally, this question should have come with, one is you are procuring a capital item, a capital asset with significant financing component, right? Because you are making the payment over 6 years, which is not regular. So, but then they should have given the rate of interest. वो दिया नहीं है. And they have specifically mentioned you ignore the amortization of financial liability in accordance with Ind AS 109. छोड़ दो उसको. So therefore we are treating it as a regular amortization. We are not applying any finance cost, finance charge, etc. Okay. All right. So with that as the basis, if we look at the solution, we had procured for 12,000. So at the end of year 1, 12 becomes 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Okay, so this is your what you can say euro amount, and finally 0. This is the closing rate at the end of each year. So the closing INR value is calculated. Now, if I have to calculate my exchange rate difference, very simple. Due to settlement, $2,000 I'm paying in the first year into 64 minus 63. I had procured the loan when it was 64. I am settling the first installment at 63. So I am paying 1 rupee less. So that becomes a gain of 2,000 and a reporting gain of 10,000 on the balance $10,000 which are outstanding. So same every month, if you go on looking, this will be the treatment. Okay. Can you do this question if at all you want to try? Can you try this out by yourself? Yes, कुछ है नहीं उसमें. Okay, what I told you for 1, you have to do that for 5 more times. But question is done. Okay. So that takes care of question number 4 as well. Okay. All right, fine. So that is done. I want you to do question 5 for homework. Same, machinery purchase for 2 lakhs, exchange rate was 68, rupees strengthened, and then by 31st March X2, it became 65. The CFO feels that these won't affect the financials because P has an asset and a liability in rupees. That P depreciates this machine, so the future year-end amounts won't be the same. So all this is simply they want to justify, they don't want to take the hit in the P&L. Okay, so you just have to explain and take. Examine the impact of this transaction for the year ended March X2. Very simple. What we have done, same thing it is. Same on this one. On 30th January, purchased a machine on credit basis. Exchange rate is 60 per dollar. Fair value of machinery 5,500. So they are doing a fair valuation. Exchange rate is 65. Payment to overseas supplier done on 31st March X2 when the rate is 67. Fair value remains unchanged for the year on 31st March 20X2. Prepare the journal entries for the year ended March X1 and X2 according to Ind AS 21. Tax rate is 30%. You just ignore this one part you ignore. What is the purpose of tax rate? We will see later. आज के लिए you just forget the presence of this tax rate and solve. A Limited follows revaluation method in respect of plant and machinery. So try these 2 questions for homework. Okay. Then the next one, let us see. I will do that for you. Okay. I will do the remaining questions for you. Okay. So can you try these 2 questions? Question 4 and question 5 of test your knowledge, latest study model. Okay. That should be helpful for understanding. Okay. Done. Okay. So that's it for today then. In the next class, ये transactions का 2-3 examples are left. We close that transaction and then we pick up foreign operations. We then pick up foreign operations and how do I convert them? So have you studied consolidation?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Acha. Intermediate, have you studied consolidation of foreign subsidiaries?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. बाकी किसी ने सिर्फ पूजा पढ़ के आई है. What about
सर अब
अभी याद
having
नहीं
little
है.
knowledge बस
Okay, Hemant, have you studied consolidation of foreign subsidiaries in your intermediate? No. ओके, वो था सिलेबस में, इतना तो पता है, या फिर खुलासा आज ही हो रहा है? यस।
सर इंडियस 21 और इंडियस 27, सॉरी ईएस 27 और ईएस 21
हाँ हाँ।
read that, but actually it's not a final level like जो
अच्छा,
final chapter है special for consolidation.
सिर्फ मेरे एक फेवर करना, आई वॉन्ट यू टू जस्ट don't study in detail. I'm not testing you on details. I just want you to be familiar with goodwill on consolidation. Principles are almost the same. जो आप यहाँ पढ़ोगे, there is some technical things which are different, like contingent consideration, etc., etc. But the questions that we will be doing on Tuesday will not have any of that. See, the reason why I want you to, why I'm asking you to just brush up those things is because otherwise it will be difficult for me to explain consolidation of a foreign subsidiary. Okay. All right. I'm talking about AS only, ma'am. Okay. Jeannie, I'm talking about AS only. AS 21 has AS 21 read with AS 11 has foreign subsidiary consolidation.
Yes.
So, एक बार, if you are able to recollect, if you have some ready-made notes, just glance through it. Don't spend more than 5 to 10 minutes. Just brush up. What I'm looking for is you should be able to know what is goodwill on consolidation. थोड़ा बहुत याद होगा ना आपको, goodwill आता है consolidation में.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
And
sir.
you should be able to know what rates do we convert our foreign subsidiaries. These two, three things, if you are able to do it, then I will be able to take you through net investment in foreign operations and consolidation of foreign subsidiaries. It may not be very efficient because you still have to do consolidation, but let us try. At least let me put that thing in your before you, that foreign subsidiary consolidation should happen like this. Otherwise, you know what will happen? I will leave that question. You will study consolidation later, but you will not study this question because Aditya sir said he will do it after consolidation. बाद में मैं आया ही नहीं. And then Kapileshwar sir will take up consolidation. So this gets left out. Okay, so that is the reason I don't want this to be left out. Okay, so
You are not going to take consolidation.
नहीं नहीं वो आई थिंक दैट इज हो गया मेरा. अभी नेक्स्ट वीक में probably be the last one till 7th 8th of December. Okay, then it will, then you will have those two big those two, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, those two monstrous standards you will be having, consolidation and financial instruments.
We will miss you, sir, then.
All right. I think sir is very, very good in those topics. Is excellent. Okay. All right then. So see you on Tuesday. So ये
सर
बस.
one more question, सर जो आपने मुझे ऑटोमेनस और वो बताया था, the
Yes.
same like integral और नॉन इंटीग्रल ऑपरेशन, राइट?
That's right. That's right. That's
Uh,
right.
sir, आपने जो कुछ स्लाइड्स के ऊपर क्वेश्चन और पेज नंबर का रेफरेंस दिया है मॉडिफाइड मॉड्यूल का, तो क्या आप वो हमें एडिशन ईयर बता पाओगे मॉड्यूल का, वो किस ईयर का है?
Latest module. See, if you look at my slides, ये मॉडिफाइड है ना, यहाँ पे आप यही बोल रहे हो
यस
ना?
सर. यस.
ये मॉडिफाइड में क्यों लिखता हूं पता है? क्योंकि एग्जाम्पल में ना द होल सॉल्यूशन कम्स. मैं क्या करता हूं, इधर लास्ट में आई जस्ट पुट अ क्वेश्चन. अदरवाइज इफ यू लुक एट द स्टडी मटेरियल, आई हैव द स्टडी मटेरियल हियर, राइट? सो 9.104.
Yes, sir. You convert the example into the
I
question.
just make that example into the question.
Yes.
और कुछ नहीं करता हूँ मैं. Okay. So that's it. That's whatever limited, because if I show this, you people see the answer and then learning does not happen. Okay. So I just make that into a question and कुछ है नहीं इसमें. So my modifications are not really modifications. Okay. It's just that I play with the presentation of the question for you. That's it.
The
Okay.
reason for asking me this question was just to make sure that the question there that are going to be there in the lectures are we are having in our hand.
हाँ
So
हाँ है
that
सब कुछ
that's
सेम
why I
ही
asked
है
her.
एंड ये भी आपको मिल जाएगा I have already uploaded this sheet and I have also uploaded this also for you. Okay, this uh, answers whatever is there. Okay, so
Okay,
Sir,
sir.
sir, one more thing you have to upload. Sir, working on the paper, what you did
अच्छा
in
ये
the
वाला
class.
चाहिए ये
Board
चाहिए
notes.
आपको
You did, yes, sir.
ये तो ये
Sir,
मुझे
actually, problem is कि when we read it again, it correlate with the example and
अच्छा हो जाता है आपका कोरिलेशन ना बिकॉज मुझे कुछ याद नहीं रहता है मैंने क्या लिखा है यहाँ पे
sir,
लाइक
videos है ना, so videos है ना, if I
because
could.
if you ask me Zimbabwe का जिक्र क्यों आ गया you ask me after 10 days I will be let me only see my video that
सर
is
बहुत सारी चीजें कोरिलेट हो जाती है, जहां नहीं होता वहीं से आपका वीडियो स्टार्ट करके उसको वापस रिलेट कर लेते हैं.
प्रॉब्लम ले चलो पब्लिक प्रॉपर्टी है जैसे भी पड़ा रहता है यूट्यूब पे तो आई विल अपलोड दिस देन माय एनोटेटेड नोट्स आल्सो आई विल गिव यू ठीक है ऑल
थैंक यू
राइट
सर.
दैट्स इट एनीथिंग एल्स एनी डाउट्स क्वेरीज नथिंग एल्स राइट सो दैट्स इट बस उतना पढ़ के आना आज some 5-10 minutes Hemant you also just spend 5 to 10 minutes to just glance through whatever you have done then I know I can take it up from there okay all right thanks everyone see you on Tuesday.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. Yes, thanks. Yes sir, session done. Thank you.